All right. Welcome to episode 6 of That Dynasty podcast. As always, it's your host, Matthew, joined by my co-host, Isiah. We want to welcome you to the show today. Isiah, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. It's been a good week. Patriots win. We got some new Rings of Power going on. We got some new House of Dragons. So, I'm just chilling, man.
Listen, and the Red Sox swept the Rays in the last series of the year. So,
Dude, the Red Sox have lost. I can't remember the day the Red Sox lost. So I'll take it.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. We got to say goodbye to some greats, perhaps for the last time. JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Dennis Eckersley on the broadcast. It was a good final week for the Sox, and Patriots then blew out the number one offense in the league and shut them down to 0. So that was nice.
Yep. Zappy season, baby.
Yep.
Tom Brady 2.0. You heard it here first.
Zap, zap, zap. Yep. Well, as always, we are super excited to talk about this past week and, of course, look ahead at week 6 coming up. But before we do get into everything, please make sure to go give us a follow on Twitter and on TikTok at That Dynasty Podcast. Full videos of each episode are up on our YouTube channel. If you prefer to listen on the go, we are available on all your big podcasting platforms as well, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, etc. We do have links for all of those in the description of our YouTube video or in the show notes on podcasts, wherever you're listening. That being said, Isiah, hey, why don't you go ahead and talk us through what this next week looks like?
Yeah, man, we got a quick few league updates. We'll talk about some flops and bops. We have a special guest joining us this week. Been talked about very much on this podcast. We got some breakout predictions for week 6. We're going to go over last week's matchups and see how often Matthew was wrong. Make some predictions for this coming week. And then we have, of course, our MVP segments right before taking us home with the updated power rankings. Sweet. So you want to get started with some league updates?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get into that, though, I do got to say the guest that we're having on today has been mentioned so many times in this podcast. I feel like he's actually the third co-host this entire time. So more to come on that. No spoilers, but let's get into the league updates. There weren't any ads and drops of notice this week. We did have a couple of name changes that went through. So Dan actually changed his name from Tua's Kung Fu Grip to Baker Mayfield GM Assassin. I've noticed a lot of assassins in the team names. Not sure what's the obsession with assassins lately. But
yeah, I don't know. Must be like a Minnesota thing or something, huh?
Minnesota thing. Okay, Derry. So I also changed my name from one Tyreek Hill. Temporarily changed it to Table per reference to the last podcast because I was worried I was going to be outscored by Angie this last week. Thankfully, that did not happen. I was able to outscore her in the final game, and I was able to change my name again, so I'm not the table being humped by the trash of the league. My new team name now is Chark It Up to Bad Luck. And that's about it for name changes and league updates. There weren't
Can we
any
get a little explanation with the name change, or we're just gonna leave it at that? Come on now, give people what they want.
Well, I got DJ Chark on my roster, and I've had extremely bad luck. I'm the manager with the most points scored against me in the league. So I think that you can chark my record up to bad luck. That's all I can say.
Very well done. Very well done.
So let's take a look into the flops and bops of week 5, 2022 NFL season.
Yeah, man. So start off with the flops. Number 3 is T. Higgins. As someone who owns Higgins in multiple leagues, this was a frustrating week. I lost. I got my butt kicked this week, so in this league, whatever. I'm in a redraft league. I was doing really well in, and I lost by 3 points because Higgins he ended the game with 0 points. So anytime you get 0 points and you're told the player is going to be playing and he plays like 4.5 snaps, it's very frustrating. Still a little bit triggered right now, but it's fine. I'll get over it. But yeah, dude, that was very unfortunate. Hopefully we'll be back this week. But that was probably one of the most disappointing fantasy performances of the season. You really can't get worse than 0. mean, he can, but it's pretty rare. So yeah, that's frustrating. So he's my number 3, but it's nothing to do with his effort or anything. It's just sometimes these things happen with football and you get injuries and stuff. So
Well, it's kind of funny because Zach Taylor actually came out and it was like, yeah, he'll be active. We're going to play him. And then, of course, he's a big fat liar and didn't play him. And then he came out after the game and said, well, we had been considering using him in certain circumstances and certain situations. And it's like, bro, what circumstances? What situations? You were down. It was a close game. You lost the game because you didn't throw the ball. Like, what circumstance could you have possibly been waiting to play him in? And then you didn't, and he put up 0 points. And I mean, even if it was like the little run play where like, Mixon or I think it was Joe Burrow ended up quarterback sneaking into the end zone, like just stick Higgins out on the end to be a big body on the end, make it look like you're going to throw to him. They just
like out route, whatever.
It made no sense. His involvement in that game was a disgrace. Anyways.
Yeah, and on Saturday I messaged Zach Taylor on MySpace, and I was like, "Yo, so like, what's up with Higgins this week?" He's like, "Dude, we're good to go. Let's rock and roll. Let's get this dub."
Wow.
And he just switched up on me, dude. I don't know.
He did that to you?
Yeah, it was just pretty rude. I'm not sure what the hostility is for, but
wow, that's rude.
Whatever. I'm actually. Can we be done talking about it, please? Thanks. Number 2, Elijah Moore. Matthew and I last week talked about what the Jets' offense might look like with Zach Wilson back at the helm. And it was not a hot week 5 performance for Elijah Moore. He had 1 reception and 4 targets for a total of 11 yards. He scored 2.1 points in a week that the boat incident lost by 12 points. Been a rather disappointing year for Moore thus far, and it'll be interesting to see if he can get something going, at some point. But yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because the Jets actually scored 40 points in that game. They blew out the Dolphins. It wasn't even close. The Dolphins and the Jets now have the same record, which is 3-2. And there wasn't a single wide receiver on that team or tight end, I should mention, that put up more than 9 points on the game. So while it definitely was disappointing, it wasn't because of lack of scoring from that offense. It's quite literally that all of the scoring came from their running backs and from the quarterback himself. And yeah, I agree with you there. All in all, just a bad look for the receivers, but looks really.
Yeah, I'm starting this rumor now. I've heard that Zach Wilson's been flirting with Elijah Moore's mom. Can't confirm it. I know how he rolls. We'll just leave it at that. All right, number 1 flop of the week, Christian Kirk. We have talked about this man being a bop in the weeks past. I think he might have been like an MVP at one point, but came crashing down to earth this week and ultimately led to Mr. Dan Sullivan losing to Trevor's team by 3 points. He had 1 reception, again, for 11 yards, just like Elijah Moore, after having a monster start to the year. It is interesting to note, Kirk owners, that his yardage has decreased every week so far this year. Not sure how much of a chance there is that he gets less than 11 yards next week, but yeah, it's definitely interesting to see. Pretty wild after his hot start.
Yeah, the Jags did not look good this past weekend, but I think they'll be able to turn it around. They have a pretty interesting schedule coming up, so we'll see how that goes. I think they have one of the easiest schedules this year, so I'm going to go into this week's BOPS. So at number 3, we actually have Leonard Fournette came in at 35.9 points. Well, last week, Isiah, I believe your breakout candidate was from the same backfield. And, well, you had the formula right. Tom Brady's pass catching back in the James White role was primed for a huge game. It just so happened that was playoff Lenny. He had 14 carries, put up 54 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He also was targeted 11 times with 10 receptions and 83 yards and a touchdown in the air. As we all saw that ridiculous roughing the passer call in that game, Brady does not take to being hit. And so he's going to be dumping the passes off at any chance he can get. Leonard Fournette happened to be the guy there and was primed for a huge game. So nice job with the predicting the situation. Kudos to Leonard Fournette for taking advantage.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how he's kind of evolved as a running back. I remember before he, was with the Jags, he was just like this brute force, and he still is. But with Tampa Bay and Brady, he's become like easily a 3-down back. So kudos to him.
Well, speaking of 3-down backs, Austin Eckler is my number 2 BOP of the week. Listen, I came on the pod last week and I said, I don't see it happening every week, but I guess Austin Eckler is out to prove me wrong. This is back-to-back dominating performances. This one even better than the week before. He put up 35.9 points, 16 carries, 173 yards, and 1 touchdown on the ground. He added to that 4 targets for 4 receptions and another touchdown in the air. The Chargers seem to have unlocked the secret to Eckler, and it will be interesting to see how he shakes up against a more proven defense this week, like the Broncos, and maybe he'll show up on a week that the rest of your team decides to show up.
Okay. That was uncalled for. Go on to number 1, please.
Speaking of uncalled for, we have the number 1 BOP of the week, Travis Kelce, with an uncalled for slap in the face, 37 points that I felt every single one of, because Darius has Travis Kelce on his team, and I was facing Darius this week.
What do you mean you felt every single point? You lost by like 150 points. Get out of here, dude.
It would have been a lot closer if he hadn't been in the game. I'll tell you that much.
Would have lost by 125.
It was kind of depressing to see the sleeper report come out and show me my maximum potential points was 140 points, and Darius beat me with 160 points or something like that. 171 points he put up. So my maximum potential roster, no spoiler alerts for later on in the show, but I couldn't have beaten Darius even if I tried. It was just bad. But back to Travis Kelce, 37 points. This is the strangest stat line I think I've ever seen. He had 8 targets, 7 receptions, only 25 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Literally, I don't know when Kelce plans to slow down and, get old, but it doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. And the fact that Darius can stack him with Mark Andrews, the number 1 and number 2 tight ends on a weekly basis, is just disgusting. I would like to move on, please.
Dude, so 7 receptions. So he averaged like 3.5 yards and got 37. That's insane.
Yeah, I literally, it was so many 1-yard touchdowns. If you look at the 8 targets, you'd be like, okay. You say 7 receptions for 25 yards. You're like, that's really not good. That's like Kyle Pitts numbers right there. And then you throw in 4 touchdowns. Like, I would love to see Kyle Pitts with 7 receptions, 25 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So, Kyle, where are you at, man? My man, where are you at? Hopefully not still sitting on the IR this week. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's funny because last week I was talking about this as the Kyle Pitts redemption week. So because he didn't play, everything that I said gets pushed to this week if he plays. Just throwing that out there. So I don't want any haymakers, no spears being thrown.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So for this next section, we're actually going to bring on a very special guest. So please welcome to the podcast. We have Trevor, aka SKOL Squad. How you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Decided to jump into this.
Absolutely. Well, we're stoked to have you on as the 3rd official guest of the podcast, and appreciate you taking time out of the day to join us. I know, obviously, you've been in some hot water when it comes to the previous podcast episodes, and having your DMs read, live on the air. How'd you feel about when you heard that? Yeah.
To be honest, I was a bit surprised, but at the same time, as part of the league, anything can happen. So just take it for what it is.
Fair enough.
That's actually a good segue. I'd like to talk about some of me and Trevor's DMs where he called me no, I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
I was like, whoa, this is about to get real spicy right here. Okay.
Nah, you gotta pay for the premium content if you guys want that.
Our link to our OnlyFans is down below. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I certainly appreciate it. Why don't you take a few seconds and just kind of talk us through your strategy coming into this year, like heading into the draft that we did, and then maybe has that strategy had to change at all as the season's progressed?
Yeah, so when we first started the draft, honestly, I had no intention of dropping down to the fourth round, but the way things opened up, I figured may as well just take a risk and pursue other options. Um, I've done multiple drafts before, and I found like a lot of mid-round players have been really useful in my lineups. And so unconventionally in a startup, I chose to, just step away and take out, um, I guess the assets that people would primarily go for with high end wide receivers, running backs, QBs, and I decided to, just take a risk. And so I chose to jump in and make sure that um, I have everything in place. Darius and I were pursuing mock drafts prior, so like I had a good idea of who was going to step in and get certain players, or like who's going to fall in the draft and stuff like that. So I just chose to thoroughly plan out my strategy in that form and go from there. You said you wanted players too?
Yeah, I mean, well, I just, looking at your record right now, you're 3-2
Yeah.
on the year. You're sitting at ranked number 4 overall. So, clearly your
Yeah.
strategy has paid off so far. Have you, I guess, what would you say is your favorite pick from, your startup draft so far? And, is there any picks that you made that maybe you would go back and redo now if you had the chance?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I guess at this point in time, I can easily say Josh Jacobs is the pick that I was really impressed with so far, because I know he hasn't started out fantastic. The first, I think, 2 games, he had like 5 points or 8 points or something like that. Wasn't very impressive, but he's been playing really well. And then staying with the Raiders offense, I'll have to say Hunter Renfro, a guy that played surprisingly well last year, and I figured maybe he'd, stay consistent. That hasn't happened so far, but again, it's still early in the season, week 6 coming up, so we'll see if that pans out. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand.
That makes sense.
My favorite Trevor pick was the Marquise Brown pick. You took him in the 6th round, and as someone who's on Marquise Brown in the past and watched his fingers pretty much practically be Butterfingers year after year with his drop balls in Baltimore, I was very hesitant. And I mean, looking at Sleeper right now, he's the 6th receiver in PPR. He's put up 14, 12, 28, 20, and 21, and has easily been Kyler's number 1 option with DeAndre out. And we'll see if that changes when he comes back. But that was a baller pick, dude.
Honestly, I wanted Bateman. And so when Matthew took Bateman, I'm like, well, Marquise Brown it was going to be one of those 2. And so I'm thankful that I was able to hit on Bateman or hit on Marquise Brown.
So you decided not to take Bateman and then take the better Ravens receiver this year, Devin Duvernay. So, more credit to you.
It all kind of worked out. But
well, it worked out as well, because I think that we made a pretty good trade to get you Bateman after all. I think that was one of the first trades in the season for our league after the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wasn't it? Oh, go on.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say, wasn't it Devin Singletary, Kareem Hunt, Bateman, and a 2023 second?
Yeah, so
let's see,
I'm pulling it up right now. You got from me Singletary and Bateman and a 2023 third. And then you sent me Kareem Hunt, DJ CHARK, a 2024 first round from SEDINPOWER, and a 2023 second. So
wow.
I was happy with the return on it. Obviously wasn't your first round pick. So that helped out, I'm sure. And it's a good trade, I think.
Trevor,
Yeah,
I'm
no.
looking at the draft picks right now, and Trevor owns like 14 out of 18 possible picks, I feel like, for next year.
Oh, I
And you have a
totally
better
agree.
record than both of us right now.
Again, it's still early in season, guys. So like, I'm happy that I'm 3-2, but not really, because I know there's still a long way ahead. And so, I'll take what I can get. I'll take my wins, but
Could be
nothing to brag
worse.
about.
It could be
Yeah.
0-5. Table humping trash. So could be worse.
It's
Well, we're
called
not going to talk about that.
the ghost of DM past.
Ghost of DM past. No, I mean, it's okay if Angie wants to, make those decisions and pursue a different route, but I don't know. For me, I have to stay competitive. And on paper, going into the season, I know it didn't look like my guys were going to hit, or they weren't very notable players in the league, but I don't know. I try to look back seasons prior. I try to look back on situations and then, go from there and analyze and do everything that I can to, do what's best for my organization. So
Last thing I'll say on the roster before we move on to maybe some of our breakout picks for this upcoming week was I really liked your Romeo Dobbs pick in round 16. That looks like that's going to be a really great pick, in the end of it all. But I think that it's kind of funny because I know as a Vikings fan, you're not exactly rooting for his success, but I think that was a pretty great pick for the production that he's going to end up having, not just this year, but I think in years to come. It's been a really, really solid pick. 16th round.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are you
yeah.
Are you related to Dawson Knox by any chance? After that 5th round pick, we got to talk about that.
No, so I had him in a redraft last year, and he did wonders for me. And so I am on the Knox train pretty much everywhere I am in fantasy. I try to take him. Obviously, due to injury and stuff like that, right now he isn't panning out. But yeah, I do like him. So
I think I remember early before we did the startup draft. I think I remember doing a mock draft with you where you took Dawson Knox in like the 3rd round or something like that. And I remember telling you, I was like, dude, this is way too early for Dawson Knox. You'll be able to get him in like the 6th round.
And said it's never too early for Knox.
Listen, got to go for your guys sometimes. I respect it.
Yeah. No, obviously, 3rd round, a bit too high, but even 5th round. I mean, looking back at the draft, I'm like, what was I doing? I could have waited.
Dude, tight ends are such a damn crapshoot. Albert O has done like there's 0, and then whatever Albert O has done this year is below that.
Yeah, no, I really expected more from him, but the Broncos offense so far just hasn't looked good. So maybe he'll turn around second half of the season, but I don't know.
Yeah, I heard they might throw Sierra out there at some point, see if she can play some tight end, but see what happens.
We might give you some crap for that 5th round Dawson Knox pick, but at least we can move past that, considering that our friend Terrell took Tom Brady in the 3rd round. So
still boggles me.
That was probably the worst pick I've ever seen in the draft. Oh,
it's funny. We can go on this podcast and talk crap about everyone. And meanwhile, Matthew and I are both 2 and 3. We're like giving people advice and like, yo, why'd you take this guy? Why'd you take this guy?
The theory is solid. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
And plus, when you're going for your guys, you don't really think about where you're taking them. You just go for it. So,
true.
It's all about hindsight.
It's true. I mean, he could have drafted Cam Akers the next round, right, Isiah?
Well, just let's move on next segment, please. Thank you.
Next segment, moving on. So we're going to actually talk about the new segment we introduced last week, which is our breakouts to watch. Last week, I actually predicted George Pickens would be the breakout candidate to watch going into week 5. He ended up having a really great game, 6 receptions. He was targeted 8 times, put up 83 yards. So pretty solid prediction. Isiah, who was your prediction last week?
I had Rachaad White. I don't remember his stats, but was fine. I think he put up like 8 or 9 points, something
Yep.
like that. So I think the year progresses, he'll get more and more play and snaps.
Yeah, and your theory was sound, as we just talked about in the previous segment. When you talk about our BOPS of the week, you know, the backfield that was being targeted there was correct. It just maybe wasn't the right player. But eventually it will fold over to him as he is an upcoming talent in the league. So this week, I want to introduce our breakouts to watch for week 6, but we figured while we had our awesome guest Trevor on the podcast, we'd let him join in as well. So Trevor, why don't you start us off with who is your week 6 breakout candidate to watch and why?
Before he starts, Can I throw some money down that it's Dawson Knox?
Go for it. No. So my breakout is Brandon AIYUK. I think at this point, you know, I'm really curious to see what this 49ers offense is going to be. I think I see a lot of upside in him. He had, I think, like 8.8 points last week, and Atlanta's defense is only ranked 17th. I feel like it's probably going to be a back and forth shootout potentially. But, you know, honestly, we've been waiting for him to have a game that just says, this is who he is. This is the 49ers that trust him. And so, I don't know. I see him potentially having a breakout game. So,
yeah, it's a great pick, especially with that Niners offense with Jimmy G, and Debo is like such a gadget player that, he's like their number 1 receiver, but he's kind of not. Like, you're going to see AIYUK more in the slot and getting probably more looks being thrown wise. And we'll see what happens with Kittle, but that's a great pick.
Yeah, I think that we also just saw what Tom Brady just did to the Atlanta offense this past week, and just absolutely, blew him out. And I mean, if anything, Jimmy Garoppolo is a miniature version of Tom Brady in a lot of ways, having gone up from behind him.
Wow. Well, we wonder why Matthew and I are 2-3 this year.
Oh, that being said, that was the worst take I've ever made on a recorded podcast. So we're going to just move right on to my breakout candidate of the week this year is SHAKIR from the Bills. So he's actually a rookie wide receiver. And with injuries plaguing the Bills offense, SHAKIR stepped in to fill the Jamison Crowder / Isaiah McKenzie role last week. He was targeted 5 times. He had 3 receptions, but pulled in 75 yards and a touchdown. Now, granted, it was a blowout victory, but with the injury concerns still looming, this rookie's primed to have another good game this week in what should be a shootout against Kansas City. I'm also thinking, because they're bye weeks right after that, if they choose to sit McKenzie for another week to get him through the bye week without having to play again, it's a really good opportunity. The role and the snaps are going to be there for him, and he showed that when given the opportunity, he can perform. Fantastic week last week, and I expect that if it's actually a close game and not a blowout, that he would actually see more than 4 targets in that slot role. So I'm projecting a big game here for Khalil SHAKIR from the Bills.
Yeah, I was reading earlier. I think McKenzie's still in using concussion for protocol, I think, as of yesterday, maybe. So if he plays this week, definitely see SHAKIR getting some more looks. My breakout candidate is Matthew Spelling. I'm looking at his notes right now, and I just want to confirm, is there spelled THIER or THEIR? Just want to.
It's whichever it depends if you're British or something.
Is it like a Maine thing, or?
Yeah, it's how they spell it here in Maine.
I see. Got it. My bad. My apologies. I'll go back to what we were talking about. But I got a good old Kenneth Walker. If anyone's listening right now and Kenneth Walker is on your waiver wire, pause the show, pause what you're doing, get on ESPN, get on Sleeper. Throw as much as you need to get Kenneth Walker, because it's Kenneth Walker season time. Obviously, unfortunately, Rashad Penny went down. It could be a fortunate thing for us in this league, because he was on Darius's squad. Sorry, Darius. Yeah, dude, his first game, actually seeing action, he went for 88 yards and only 8 carries and a touchdown. Seahawks offense has been way better than everyone thought this year. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see how he looks the rest of the year with zero competition from the rest of the Seahawks roster. And, I think in redraft leagues, he could be like the biggest X factor of the year. So.
Well, you don't think that the, Tony Jones, who they just claimed off of waivers from the Saints, you don't think that he's going to be a big competition for touches in the backfield?
I don't think so, but I have been wrong before.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Well, that's the breakout candidates to watch. And for this coming week, guys, make sure that you are not blaming us if those players do not break out, because as we said before, this is a season-long endeavor, and we do not project much of except greatness. But if it's not great, then you can't blame us. So anyways, Trevor, appreciate you hopping on the podcast today and talking about your team. And wanted to just again say kudos to you for the performances so far, and for really stacking up a great future for your crew. And excited to see how the rest of the season plays out for you. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, just thank you again for having me on, and thank you for allowing me to have this platform to share just a little bit of my thoughts. And yeah, look forward to the rest of the season.
For sure. Well, thanks again for coming on, man. Appreciate
you. Yeah. Thank you too.
Right. Thanks.
You me. Sweet. Let's review last week's predictions, Matthew. So, last week, first game, Chris Rockshaw against Saquan at These Nuts. Can we just skip over this one? Do you really need to talk about this?
You just need to talk about the fact that we both predicted correctly. So we have kudos to us for that.
That is true. We did call that. Darius's roster was filthy.
No, that's
dude.
King Cobb's roster.
I'm sorry, King Cobb's roster.
He's 4-1 on the year. We predicted it. But I will say you put up 94 points, and a third of those came from Austin Eckler. Over a third.
How many points did you put up? Oh, more than me. Crap.
More than you.
All right.
Hey, at least you scored more points than Angie, so that's all that matters.
That's true. We gotta keep things in perspective.
Next matchup was the Love Boat incident, and he was up against Team Joni 1. And we both predicted the Love Boat incident to pull out the victory on this one. He had Breece Hall, he had Jamar Chase, he had Elijah Moore, he had James Robinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ramondre Stevenson, the Broncos, who put up 16 points as a defense. So all in all, we thought he was pretty much stacked from top to bottom. But Amon-Ra St. Brown was on a snap count. Pat Freiermuth was targeted just twice for 12 yards and then got concussed and out for the game. Elijah Moore, we talked about him, Bop of the week. James Robinson, very concerning. So you take all those things into consideration, and the fact that, yes, Team Joni 1 went up against Gabe the Babe, and was a recipe for disaster. So,
yeah, I'm glad we won the pod last week and said how much better Gabriel Davis is going to be than yeah. So
yeah,
we'll take that out of the chest.
We'll just delete that episode, that part of the podcast last week. Next matchup was against Tua's Kung Fu Grip, and that was actually against SKOL Squad, our guest Trevor's team. We alluded to it a little bit earlier, but a thrilling comeback victory from Trevor. We'll actually talk a little bit more about this game later on, but he snuck out the victory 118-115, 3-point victory in the last play of the game. Sorry, the last drive of the game. Yeah, it was a very, very close matchup. Kudos to Trevor for winning that matchup, and it's now 3-2 in the year.
Yeah, that's literally all because of Christian Kirk. That's tough.
Yep. And we both predicted that one incorrectly. So that brings us down to the next matchup. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, we got Team SADINPOWER against Big Cheese Fire. And if I'm correct, I think we both picked SADINPOWER now. You picked Big Cheese Fire.
My boy Terrell came through. Thanks, man.
He
Didn't let me
did.
down.
Man, Justin Jefferson went off. Tom Brady with a good day. Derrick Henry with a great day. Man, I went up against Tyler Lockett in a couple of my redraft leagues, and I was pretty ticked off on Sunday. 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just he had some ballers that day. Yeah, and he beat SADINPOWER by over 20 points. So, yeah, kudos to Terrell.
Didn't Justin Jefferson have a passing touchdown in that game too? I'm almost positive he did. I know he threw a completion for 23 yards, and it doesn't list it here on his stat line, but I'm pretty sure he had a passing touchdown.
Well, good thing is
Cook.
70% of our league is Vikings fans, so they will definitely let us know.
Let us know if that is true, because I'm almost positive that he threw a touchdown to Dalvin Cook. So if that's the case, kudos for having as many touchdown passes on the year as Justin Fields. Anyways, next matchup was Aaron Rodgers on Shrooms versus Table Humping Trash. This was the underdog matchup.
Angie.
She had a shot. I'll give her that. But did not quite capitalize on the opportunity. Aaron Dillon decided to go home. Justin Herbert didn't put up anything. And ultimately, Aaron Rodgers on Shrooms. Now Aaron Rodgers on AIYUK is the victor, 102.6 to 87.5. Oh, I forgot to mention that in the team name changes. Aaron Rodgers on Shrooms is now AIYUK. Putting that out there right now. Anyways,
that's actually, that's Spanish?
I believe it is.
It's for I smoke weed.
Ah, I see.
Yes, I asked my Costa Rican wife what that meant. That's what she said. So
well, that makes sense. So Angie is now 0-5 on the year, and Andy is now 3-2, ranked number 5 overall in the league, which is higher than both of us. Moving on to the final matchup of the week, which was a stomping. It was the highest points put up in the entire week. Darius's Modern Welfare 3, and I don't know if this is a misspelling there, Darius, if it's supposed to be modern, but it's modern. Modern Welfare, or maybe there's a joke I'm missing. You can tell me if I'm wrong, or you can correct it before the next podcast. Either way, congrats on the whopping victory, 171.26 to 108. You beat me by 63 points, and was just.
Did you say 63?
Yep.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yep. It was a brutal loss. So, and that wasn't even his max points that he could have possibly have put up had he started the best lineup, like the Cowboys defense, who put up 24 points versus the 8 his Vikings defense put up. So all in all, great week. I'm terrified of his team. He's 5-0, undefeated, number 1 ranked team in the league. So if you total up those points, Mr. Bad Prediction himself, which is me, actually had the most victories on the week. I went 3 for 3. And Isiah, you went 2 for 4. So that actually brings us up. Drum roll. We are tied up on the season now, 16-14 apiece. We have a winning record, and we are tied up. So this next week's going to be the deciding factor, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I knew this was going to happen. Part of my plan and part of my the way I want to maneuver with this is try to make it a little bit closer. Just for, I'm going to be honest, I'm doing this for you guys. It's no fun if I'm, up by like 6-7 points on Matthew. So if we get a tie sounds like a better story. So, but speaking of fun stories, let's move on this week, dude. So first matchup of the week, Chris Rock's jaw versus Table Humping Trash. Angie let me down last week, so I will never, ever, ever choose her again after I put my heart down on my table and I got stabbed with a fork and knife. But yeah, unfortunately, she's going up against me this week, so she's moving to 0-6, boys. She's currently projected 99.2 points to my 93, but those point projections don't include my quarterback. I currently have Goff, who's obviously on his bye, and then Dak hopefully comes back. But yeah, don't be afraid. I will be making a QB move if necessary. Maybe looking at PJ Walker, or maybe a quick little trade for a third rounder. I got some options I'm looking at. I'm not going to disclose what they are, but yeah.
Listen, I've gone against you too many times, and I've rooted for you too many times when you've let me down. So I think this is one of those ones where we got to stick true to the brand, and I got to have your back on this one. I think you're taking her down. So it's just not much more to be said other than you need a quarterback.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, I will definitely be humping that trash, but that will be all done with consent.
Hey, how many points did Albert O put up last week, by the way?
I'm not sure, but my starting tight end put up over 10, so I'll take it.
Sounds good. What's the next matchup that we're looking at?
Smart ass. How many points did you lose by? Huh?
I think it was 63. Michael Gallup would have saved the day, though.
All right. Next, we got A. Rodgers on AIYUK versus the Love Boat Incident. We got 3-2 A. Rodgers coming up against 2-3 Love Boat Incident, and he's projected for 120. Love Boat's projected for 103. I will say the Love Boat's projection is probably about 10 points off because St. Brown is still in the starting lineup with Travis Etienne on the bench as the last I looked. I do think Andy does actually win this one. I'm looking at his roster. I like McCaffrey over Hall, like Kenneth Walker over Jay Robinson, Garrett Wilson over Elijah Moore. I like Devontae Smith, and Adam Thielen is going up against a really awful pass offense so far this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's Ramondre Stevenson, baby. So we're going with the Love Boat Incident on this one. I'm taking him back-to-back weeks, and I think that he's gonna pull this one out.
Interesting. All right, next, MORDERN Welfare 3 versus Baker Mayfield GM Assassin. Bold take of the week. Darius is getting his first loss this week, boys. Oh. Really don't like what he has a running back this week. Hopefully for him, Smith comes back next week and helps solidify his backfield. But he's starting both Michael Carter and Darrell Henderson, who both are practically backup running backs at this point. What I think with Michael Carter is he did really well last week because Brees Hall. Not Bryce Hall. No TikTokers on this podcast. Brees Hall did about 99% of the work and just could not punch it in extra 10 centimeters. So Michael Carter got the points. I don't think that'll happen again. And the Rams running offense is absolutely dog crap. Take it from someone who has Akers in their lineup right now. And I'm also not sure if Keenan Allen returns this week. And if so, how much he'll play. Give me Dan. He's going to improve to 4-2 in the year. And Darius, MORDERN Welfare 3 is going to get his first loss.
I also think that Dan is going to lose this week, but my bold take is that it's because he sits Brandon AIYUK on the bench, which is Trevor's breakout candidate of the week. I think he's going to lose, and he's going to lose because he sits AIYUK on the bench, who's going to have a great game against Atlanta. So,
bold take. All right, chalk it up to bad luck versus Big Cheese Fire. Matthew's winning. Bucket.
Wait. We broke up a little bit there. Can you say that one more time? I didn't quite hear you.
Yeah, so you're going to win this week and not lose by 270 points. So,
thanks for jinxing me.
So, I got you. So, I talked about how bad Darius's running back situation is currently. Topo Domas is worse. He has Jamal Williams and Derrick Henry both on the bench this week due to buys, which there's only so much you can do about it. And Damian Harrison's going to be out for at least a couple weeks. And so the best running back he currently has is Mike Boone, who's currently the third running back on the depth chart as of 2 weeks ago. McKenzie's probably out for the game after being in concussion protocol. So, yeah, give me chalk up the bad luck, Matthew, and I think you get the dub and don't lose by 70.
Yeah, I will say that the secret play here is that he has Taysom Hill on the bench. And we didn't talk about Taysom Hill in this podcast, But Taysom Hill is the worst person to fantasy players because he, first off, has destroyed the value of Alvin Kamara. But also, why is he the way that he is? He literally rushed 9 times for 112 yards with 3 touchdowns in this game. So he had 3 rushing touchdowns, 112 yards on the ground, and he threw for a passing touchdown. And he wasn't even the starting quarterback. He was listed as a tight end. He didn't see a single snap, or I should say a single target in the game. And he put up 33.5 points. I didn't talk about him because Terrell still ended up winning. Big Cheese Fire pulled out a victory. Otherwise, he would have been probably later on in the show. He would have been my bench MVP. But Terrell ended up actually winning with that weapon on the bench. So my fear is that he listens to this podcast and is like, Isaiah McKenzie's going to be out. I'm going to start Taysom Hill, and then Taysom Hill goes off. But I appreciate the support, and I'm also going to root for myself in this matchup because I think you're right. Too many injuries on the other side.
So obviously you're going to root for yourself. Are you going to vote for yourself as the winner, or?
I got to go with my gut on this one. I think I'm going to finally, not chalk it up to some bad luck.
All right. Next, SKOL Squad versus SAQUAN, DEEZ nuts. A lot of S's going on there. As much as I'd like to pick our handsome guest that came on today, sorry, Trevor. I love Dawson Knox too. Just can't do it. It's currently out projected by about 45 points. That's 30 less than what Matthew lost by last week. It's just too large of a mountain to overcome, man. And even, you would know this. There's a clear talent difference when you look at who you have in the running back and flex spots between these two teams. Trevor's currently rolling out Jalen Warren, Devin Singletary, Duvernay, Rondale Moore, and the running back and flex spots. SAQUAN, these nuts in these same spots in his team has SAQUAN, Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette, and Cooper Kupp. I think that's enough said.
Yeah, I mean, the only weak spot on his team is that he's starting Sutton and Judy on that awful offense that is the Broncos. But literally, I don't see a situation in which Cooper Kupp, Nick Chubb, Fournette, and Barkley alone don't win him this week. So I'm going to have to go with SAQUAN, these nuts. I think it will be closer than is projected, but I still think he's gonna dominate.
Yeah, agreed. And last one of the week is SEDINPOWER versus Team Joni. SEDINPOWER is projected about 140. Team Joni is projected about 118. It's simple as this. If Jonathan Taylor plays this week, SEDINPOWER pretty much has the best player in every position, maybe, except for QB, which is a wash probably with how Jalen Hurts is playing this year. I'm expecting bounce-back games for A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle. Also a little bit of a believer in Kittle this year with Jimmy G being back and being a starting QB. And again, I'd like to remind everyone that I have Team Joni's first-round pick and will not be picking him once this year, just based off trying to speak it into existence. So,
well, in order to create some separation, I'm going to have to go against you on this one because otherwise I'm never going to be able to dominate you in our overall picks for the year. So I also really love Jalen Hurts this year. He's going up against Dallas, who has been great against the pass. Well, good thing Jalen Hurts loves to run and has been actually he's on pace to beat Lamar Jackson's single season record for rushing attempts by a quarterback. So that's a great fact. Also, I see as David Montgomery on the bench, who's set to play Thursday night and should be a smash play against Washington. So I think he should probably start him. Montgomery saw 75% of the snaps in his first week back from an injury. Montgomery is a workhorse and a beast. If he starts them, I like Mixon. I like him having Montgomery. I like Dobbins. Gabe Davis looks like it's going to be great in a shootout. Mike Williams. So I think this is pretty comparable. I'm going to have to go Team Joni 1.
I respect it.
Yep.
All right. Sweet. Let's talk about our MVPs of the week. I'm going to start with my bench MVP of the week. We got Travis Etienne. Had his best game of the year so far. Really productive Sunday out of the backfield for the Jags. He had 71 yards on 10 carries, which that 70 number is interesting. We've also heard the 70 number come up earlier in the show. That's when we were talking about how much you lost. Okay, sorry. I'll move on. Something about the number.
It's too soon. I'm still bleeding from that beating.
I'm sorry. Little tight end low for you. Yeah, dude, 71 yards on 10 carries, 3 receptions for 43 yards. Dude had a total of 114 yards. Unfortunately, still hasn't found the end zone so far this year, but I expect that to change real soon, and I expect that to change next week. If the Love Boat incident had moved Elijah Moore to the flex and replaced him with Travis Etienne, he would have won this week. So there's my bench MVP.
Well, speaking of, obviously the whole point of this is saying, hey, they had started this person, they probably would have won. My bench MVP is Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith may have only put up 24 points, but for a quarterback, that's actually pretty good. He had 16 completions, 268, and 3 touchdowns. He didn't throw an interception. He even put up 13 yards in the ground. Geno was a featured bench warmer, and that would end up costing Dan, aka Baker Mayfield GM Assassin, the week. He actually started Joe Burrow, who only managed to put up 17.28 points. Now, this matchup, Trevor ended up winning in a comeback by 3 points. It was a thrilling matchup, and those 3 points would have been easily surmounted in the difference between Geno and Joe Burrow. So sitting Geno on the bench ended up costing Dan the week. Geno is actually now quarterback 6 on the season, and Burrow is quarterback 9. Crazy to think that we all got that prediction so wrong at the beginning of the year. Do you think he continues that as the season goes?
Definitely not QB6. But no, I mean, dude, the offense was great. We'll see what happens with Kenneth Walker, but it's pretty wild. Coming in this year, I really wanted nothing to do with the Seahawks players. I really only took DK because he's still so young, and I was like, they'll try to get like Bryce Young or next year. But I mean, they already have their Bryce Young and Geno Smith. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely don't see him being top 5. He'll probably end up being like a 10 to 15-ish fantasy QB. And I think for anyone that's taken him this year, they'll love to take that by the end of the year. So,
no, I agree. But sticking in that same matchup, I'm going to talk about my MVP of the week. So my MVP of the week is actually Josh Jacobs. And the before mentioned matchup between Trevor and Dan, it really came down to the final drive of the game for the Raiders offense. Now, Isiah and I both doubted Trevor's team. I'm going to be honest. We went on the pod last week. We both didn't think that he was going to pull out the victory, but he pulled out a come from behind victory with only Josh Jacobs as his remaining player. Jacobs ended up putting 30.30 points. He had 21 attempts, 154 yards on the ground with 1 touchdown and 5 receptions for another 39 yards in the air. Jacobs has been an absolute steal, as Trevor mentioned. He's just proving why he's deserving of, RB1 conversations. And he's actually currently the running back 4 on the season. So top 5 running back. He's been absolutely dominating the last couple of weeks, and he won this week single-handedly for Trevor. Pretty much put up 25% of his points on the week, and that comeback victory sealed the deal. Probably the most thrilling victory of the week. I know some people might say watching Darius put up 171 points was thrilling, but for me, I mean, this was the most interesting one. So,
yeah, I mean, to each their own. Did you watch the game, the Chiefs Raiders game? What do you think of the 2-point conversion call?
Listen, man, they should have just kicked it. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, as someone who lives here in Vegas and is dealing with all these annoying Raiders fans right now, spent the entire off season saying, Raiders season, we're out here, and seeing just stupid play calls and decisions like that, that's tough. I don't understand. Just kick it.
Like, the other thing I don't understand is that 1-point lead when Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback against you.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to make a difference. Come on. I mean, 18 seconds is too much time for Patrick Mahomes, apparently.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I was talking to a coworker today, Raiders fan, and he was pretty irritated about it. So I think a lot of Raiders fans are already saying Josh McDaniels back to the Pats, but I'll move on.
I'll take it.
All right. Yeah, I know at this point it can't be worse than Matty P. All right, my MVP of the week, Gabriel Davis.
Ew.
I wish we could go back in the time machine and take back some of the things that Matthew said. I tried to convince him before the pod that Gabriel Davis is definitely the guy moving forward, but just for just to make the show seem smoother and show that we kind of think the same, I decided to say what I said. But if Gabriel Davis, if you're a listener of the show, shout out to you for listening to us and deciding to prove us wrong, because you did. He had 3 receptions, which is, for a total of 171 yards, dude. So that's what, an average of 55 or somewhere in that ballpark, somewhere in the 50s. It's pretty nuts. 2 touchdowns, total of 32 points. He ultimately led Team Johnny 1 to victory over the Love Boat incident. That 90-something yard touchdown grab from Allen was absolutely electric. As a Patriots fan, I'll never not enjoy the Steelers defense looking absolutely awful like that. Hell of a performance from Davis. Not talking about you, Corey. And I expect this will be the first of many big games for him this year in that Bills offense. So,
yeah, he was also my MVP on FanDuel this weekend. I stacked him with Josh Allen and Leonard Fournette, and had a pretty slamming roster. On FanDuel, I had Dalvin Cook in there. I had Kamara in there, and I think ended up winning quite a bit of money. The only thing that cost me on those matchups was, unfortunately, starting 2 players who ended up getting concussions in the middle of their games. Pat Freiermuth at tight end, and Chris Olave, who had a decent game, but then got concussed halfway through. So
they gave him that touchdown grab, right?
Yeah, and he literally got knocked out catching it. So
yeah,
it's a great catch by him, and unfortunately, he's probably going to be out another week here, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrapping it up for our MVP sections. Let's talk about some power rankings, man. So I'm thankful that I have the formula down. I'm not going to mess this up again now that I can actually update it.
Oh, it's weird, guys. We actually have the even though people won and lost, we have the same score as last week.
Listen, I get a lot of things wrong, but I'll admit to them when I get them wrong. This is something I didn't get wrong this week, so that's a positive.
Also, let's point the fact so everyone knows what goes on behind the scenes here. Matthew does about 95% of the work. He pays me to come on, look pretty, throw a couple of jokes in there, but just so everyone knows, this is all Matthew's brain power behind this. So kudos to you.
Well, appreciate it, man. But I think something actually might be broken here, because the power rankings, I don't know, they just don't seem accurate. I don't know. You'll see what I mean. So we'll start at the bottom here. We'll work our way up. Starting at the bottom, nothing has changed. The scenery is still the same. You look around, you see a lot of humping going on, a lot of trash, and a lot of tables. Sitting here at the bottom, we still have table humping trash coming to number 12. But coming in at number 11 this week is someone who finally, I think, is going to come out from the bottom after this week, but Team Joni 1 still sitting at team spot 11 in the power rankings. So Joni 1, whoever you are, I'm counting on you to rise from the bottom, seize the day. All right. So now this is where it starts to get interesting. The Love Boat incident is coming in now this week at number 10. Now, last week, it was our friend Terrell who was coming in at number 10. The Love Boat incident has dropped from, I believe he was number 8 last week, down to number 10. So a little bit of a fall after the loss this week. Now coming in at number 9, like I said, this can't be accurate. Chris Rock's jaw coming in at number 9. Yeah, that's actually moving down for you. You were previously ranked top 6, and now it's another 3 spots down in the power rankings after the brutal loss this week. Yeah, I think this chart's broken. I think it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's something going on. I'm not saying it was the Russians again with the election. I'm not saying it wasn't the Russians again with the election, but I think there's a little something going on here behind the scenes with the power rankings, but a gentleman never tells.
All I can say is that if it truly wasn't broken, then how could I be at number 8? How could number 8 be chalk it up to bad luck? I don't understand it, man. It's got to be broken. They have us 9 and 8 back to back in the power rankings. Must be broken. That's a fall for me down from number 5. Yeah, that's not a good look. Hope to rebound after this week. Based on us falling down to where we are, number 7 coming in is Terrell, Big Cheese Fire, moving up the charts, baby. Let's go. That's a nice move from number 10 where he was last week. And then we have coming in at number 6, our guest of the week, Trevor. Oh man, what a movement. Trevor has been climbing up week after week. Kudos to him for that. He was 9th last week, moving up to 6th this week. I'll probably be taking down Darius's number 1 spot here coming up shortly, but after this week, because we have them both projected to lose. Number 5 is Team SEDINPOWER. Previously, he was one of the highest ranked teams. He was top 4 in the last power rankings, is now dropped to number 5. That means taking over his spot at number 4 is Aaron Rodgers on AIYUK. And he was up from number 5. So he was up from number 7. So he moved from 7 to 4. There's a lot of movement this week.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I think SKOL Squad is the best 2 and 3 team. Is that correct?
No, he's 3 and 2.
I'm sorry, not SKOL Squad. SEDINPOWER.
SEDINPOWER is 2 and 3. He's ranked number 6 overall in the standings.
So between what 6 and 10, we're all the same record. It's just based on power rankings.
Yeah, it is power rankings here based on like his actual team. It's kind of interesting because his points for, he actually has, let's see here, if I sort it by points for, he has one of the top points for in the league. I think it's top 3. Goes Darius, King Cobb, then him for the most points scored this year.
Yeah, tough luck.
Tough luck. Coming in at number 3, hasn't moved, stayed there from last week, is BAKERMAYFIELD, GM Assassin. Number 2, same spot as it was before, SAQUAN D's Nuts. And number 1, still holding on to the king spot, is Modern Welfare 3 in Darius. I'm convinced my commissioner must be cheating. That's all I can say. His team has just been too good and too lucky. Maybe the mighty will fall down to some grace here this week with King Cobb projected to win, Modern Welfare projected to take a loss, and according to our projections here, maybe we'll see some flip-flopping in those power rankings next week. Now that Darius doesn't seem to have a running back on his team, we shall see. We shall see. All right, man. What you got? Close us out.
Pats, Browns, dude. What do you think?
Well, they don't have Baker Mayfield back.
Or Deshaun Watson.
Well, I would take Baker Mayfield right now. Let's see.
I think I would take Jacoby Brissett over Baker Mayfield right now.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Jacoby Brissett has been managing the game. That's all I can say. But
yeah, which Baker's been losing the game. So.
Nick Chubb's been winning the games. I'll tell you that.
That's true.
I think that they're going to shut down the run game, which means I'm projecting a big game for Cooper and Njoku, who's been great. I think it's going to be Stevenson's season, and I think the Browns are going to win.
I think the Patriots pull it off. I think our defense is absolutely underrated, and it's absolutely shocked me this year because looking on paper, he didn't look very good. But Jack Jones, the next Darrelle Revis, our run defense has been good. Pass rush looks great. Patriots win. Billy Zappi season. Zappi throws 5 touchdowns for 500 yards and shows that he's the next coming of Tom Brady. You heard it here first.
I will say that he definitely does like targeting Jacoby Myers in the end zone, which is something that no one else seems to have done for Jacoby Myers' entire career. So if that can continue, I love that idea. And
dude, Myers is a beast, man. He's so underrated.
He is. And I also saw some rumors that Odell Beckham Jr. might be, of course, getting close to the end of his injury recovery, might be a good fit for the Patriots if they start to pull out some winning record here. So we'll see. Mac must be getting close to getting back.
Yeah, I don't see it, man. I don't see it with Odell. think we have enough receivers right now, and I want to give Tyquan Thornton some more snaps as we go through the year. But
Yeah, I'm excited to see him. Yeah, he was back this last week, so we'll see what happens. But Stevenson season, baby, let's go.
Yeah, facts.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for tuning into That Dynasty podcast. Once again, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. Give us a follow on Twitter, on TikTok, or anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Also, if you listened all the way through this podcast and you're still here, we certainly appreciate you. Thank you for sticking it out. If you do want to take some time out of your day and give us a review or a 5-star like and a comment on any of the podcasting sites, it actually really helps us out. Anytime that you leave a review or a rating, it helps to help expand our audience and get us showing up a little bit higher on the charts, on the podcasting charts. So anything we would appreciate from you guys. And once again, thanks for tuning into That Dynasty podcast. And if you have any questions that you want answered on the show, give us a shout on social media, and we will look to feature your questions on the next episode if they do come in. So that being said, Isiah, any final statements or thoughts?
No, did you, speaking of stuff to add, did you add my Cash App? People want to send me some money or?
Yeah. I think that's down below somewhere.
Yeah, it's
here somewhere like that. But all right, guys, until next time, my name is Matthew. This is Isiah. Peace out.
See you guys.